Then people were reaching out to me like, hey man, can you help me with this? Or dude, I almost killed myself and I'm really grateful. Hundreds of messages like that.
Oh, wow.
Hundreds. And that's what made me keep doing it. Even when I was getting friction from the Legion was like, hey man, I almost killed myself and I saw your message and I put the gun down and I really thank you. And I went, you know what? All right, let's do this. I can do this. The minute you get complacent, you're gonna start backsliding. And I'm glad for it because it's never lost me, because I'm still very aware of what it feels like to not have gas in my truck, living in my truck. It's fear driven.
Yes.
I think most entrepreneurs are driven by fear. Everybody has fear. The types of people allow it to push them different ways, right? Fear can be a very positive catalyst or it can destroy your life.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Nichols and Dimes Show. I'm your host, Chris Nichols. Today, our guest is Taylor Cavanaugh, a former Navy SEAL and French Foreign Legionnaire. But what really stands out about Taylor is his crazy and fascinating story of overcoming big obstacles in his life, such as past struggles with addiction, depression, being in jail, and overcoming all of this to then join the French Foreign Legion and then create his own business to help others reach their personal excellence goals. If you search for Taylor online, you'll see a lot of other podcasts he's been on where they really focus a lot on his crazy life story. He has a lot of intense stories that definitely will grab your attention, and we do touch on a good amount of that in this podcast. But I approached this podcast letting him know that I really want to talk about his business today and what's ahead for him, how his past experiences made him who he is today, and why it fueled his passion to help others with their fitness, nutrition, and mindset goals. We talk about identity struggles from his transitions out of the military and how he recovered from being at rock bottom, being suicidal. We then talked about what motivated him to go to France and join the French Foreign Legion, and how he started creating content as a French Foreign Legionnaire, which then transformed into his Taylor Cavanaugh brand that became recognized by so many. And then the inception of his coaching business. I ask him some business tactical questions around what products he offers today, what services he wants to offer in the future to scale, his content marketing strategy on YouTube, on social media. He also shares some entrepreneurial challenges he's faced and what he's done to overcome these, and shares that advice back with us. I really enjoyed getting to know Taylor better in our conversation at his place in Temecula. If you're watching this on YouTube, I will warn you that we had a little bit of camera issues because it got so hot on the balcony where we filmed and recorded this podcast. So there are little sections where we lost a bit of footage, but that's okay. We had such a great conversation and it's all recorded. And you'll see in the video that it was replaced with some nice pictures here and there. Please follow the Nichols and Dimes Show on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and follow at Nichols and Dimes and at Nichols and Dimes Show on Instagram for all of my podcast updates. Now, please enjoy this fascinating and exciting conversation with Taylor Cavanaugh.
Taylor Cavanaugh, what's going on?
Chris, chilling, bro. Thank you for coming out to the pad today, man.
Thanks for having me, man. What an awesome spot here in Temecula.
I appreciate it, bro. Dude, I can't complain, man. It's pushed out enough to where it kind of got a different vibe, but you're close enough to where if you need to get to LA and San Diego, it's a hop, skip, and a jump, which I find super convenient.
Yeah, and you grew up in San Diego, right?
Yeah, I grew up really in the middle of San Diego, kind of near Mission Valley area. Man, dude, in like the 90s, we used to ride our bikes down the hill, dude, and it was like jumps and dirt, and now it's all packed in with condos. It wasn't like that before. It was a little bit more edgy too in like the late 80s, early 90s.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, it was like Kearney Mesa, Serra Mesa area. It was still, nice, and then I moved up to Poway a little bit later. So in high school, I went to Poway.
Nice, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was born in Coronado and grew up in Hawaii. So San Diego was always a second home, and I got a little taste of it to see family once a year.
Dude, you just living that island life, bro. Just island to island, bro.
Apparently, man. Yeah, but it's good to be back. I just got back here 2020. I had to get out of San Francisco, but life is good down here, man. It's a good balance of all the aspects of the lifestyle that I'm looking for, and it sounds like you kind of have the same focus in the life you try to live.
Yeah, what was growing up in Hawaii like?
It was different, man. It was yes, it was isolated for sure. There were some beautiful parts of the culture that I will always be thankful for. But at the same time, it was a very different culture. And, coming to college in California, it was still, I had to adapt to how people interact with each other and just how people operate in general. I luckily had a lot of exposure growing up because I got to travel. So I had an advantage there compared to many of my peers who I grew up with in Hawaii. But I think, one thing I say, it felt very limiting in Hawaii. not just geographically, but from a mentality standpoint.
Yeah.
And mindset standpoint. And people are very satisfied with kind of just a mediocre lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's just not what I'm going for.
Yeah, I get it.
And obviously, I think this is going to be a big theme. This is kind of a good transition, a big thing with you and how you've lived and what you're doing now. And, that being said, I think, I was watching a lot of different podcasts that you've done, and everyone is very focused on your wild story. And it's fascinating, right? From being a Navy SEAL to being a French Foreign Legionnaire, and then having the ups and downs in between. I want to definitely touch on that stuff so that people can know, but my show is focused on business and taking people who have a business or background in professional sports or health, wellness, fitness.
Yeah.
And so I want to dive into some of the tactics of how you created this business, this brand, what your strategy is behind it, what you're doing today, and what's ahead.
Yep. I like that. I like up and out, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of people are down and in, and I think people are too much down and in, but really, and this is what I talk to veterans and anybody get reshaping their identity, man. It doesn't matter what you did. And also, nobody gives a shit.
Right.
Right? I mean, people might care for like 5 minutes. It might open a door for 1 second that you might not have been able to get open. You get the ear of somebody. But that's it. And then it's, what can you do for me now? And who are you now? I don't want to be that guy, this isn't a knock on it, but I don't want to be the guy in the veterans hat, hanging out in the VFW talking about all the cool shit I used to do, man. I want to be talking about the cool shit I'm doing now.
Exactly. And how you use that to apply to now, right?
Yeah.
And this has actually come up in a few different podcasts I've done with other veterans who are entrepreneurs now in some other way. And, one of the struggles or one of the topics that fascinates me the most is the challenge around identity.
Yeah.
And, and I've struggled with this myself with things that I've really committed my life to or that I was working on at the time, where I put my whole identity into what this thing is that I'm doing, whether it was a sport I played or a job I had. And as soon as it doesn't go right in the slightest way, I feel worthless.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've got some overlap there with what you went through.
Absolutely.
Right? Coming out of the military and then, what you dealt with after that. I'd love for you to tell that story, but with a focus on this identity piece and what that struggle was like.
Yeah. Man, I've had people talk about military transitions. I've had 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And so I actually got the chance to do the second one correct because I had fumble fucked the first one. and I had wrapped my whole identity in being a SEAL. Right. And you've been around SEALs and partying down a lot. Man, it's a echo chamber.
Yeah.
Right. It's an echo chamber. And you can really get wrapped up in that, especially any length of time. Right. I was in there for close going on 7.5 years. It was what I wanted to do. And I loved doing it. That was the other piece. I loved it. So when that wasn't even taken away, when I gave that away from poor choices, I was left kind of holding this bag. And so I moved right into just going 1,000 miles an hour and not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right. Going right. Well, if I can't be a SEAL, then I want to be massively successful. I just want to make money. That's going to be my identity, is moving and grooving. And went into, at a private residential developer, was doing supervising on a big project, and then moved into the cannabis industry, and now I'm pitching decks. And so it was just this, going 1,000 miles an hour, eating Adderall, not sleeping, taking opiates, and just going without trying not to think about it. I had not addressed any of the identity issues at all. Most importantly, what creates a good identity? And that was what I was in the Legion, and I realized I still wasn't happy after going to the Legion again and trying to put another Band-Aid on, that topical fix.
Yeah.
And so that's when I really started to understand that your identity really has to just be in, not to sound cliche, but being your best every day. And it's got to be rooted in good daily habits. It can't be rooted in anything somebody can take away from you. Title, right? Because you could be the CEO of a company and your whole identity is that, and you can get chopped or the company gets bought or whatever. Or you can be a SEAL and have that taken away, or in the military, or anything that is external of you that you're validating yourself on. very dangerous. And so that's when I decided I just want to be proud of myself off of with nothing. And luckily the Legion provided me that because I didn't have shit. I was, in poverty level, making money in a barracks room at 38, 37, going, all right, well, and I was still happy because I was growing. I was psychologically growing. I was probably in one of my most peaceful states I'd ever been in. And I went, oh, okay. If I can be good here, I can be good anywhere. And then I made damn sure that those habits that I had built there, I didn't change. And so even here now, I do the same shit every day. And that has been a real rooted piece of my identity of I'm just a locked on motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
Not perfect, right? I'm not a robot, but I try to be, and if I fall off the horse on a wake up time or I slip and fall into a couple Oreos, or something, and then, but okay, reset very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Not letting it simmer and go anything longer than it needs to.
And were these habits that you tapped back into from your days in the Navy, or would you even say that you didn't fully grasp those even at that time?
I was too immature and I lacked self-awareness still. I had built, there was pieces. I had these pieces in all these different areas, but I had never locked them all together. Like I had focused on my diet for times, or worked out. I'd been up early working. I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning and going to work out before we had muster times in the SEAL teams, right, as a new guy. So I loved it though. But then that wasn't always consistent. I would have terrible weekends and have a couple days to get back in order. So I would have these chunks. And so looking back when I was in that Foreign Legion barracks room and I was like, when have I been my most happy? Well, generally it's when I've been the most disciplined. For the most part.
Yeah.
I think most people will agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
That when they have the most clarity, it's when they're on a good path. And so I just go, okay, well, I've been happiest when I start waking up early, when I'm tracking my food. How about I just do all of this all the time? And not and just be deliberate about doing it all the time and make it sustainable, right? Not make it some feast and famine, I'm CrossFit 4 hours a day and then eating chicken and broccoli, everything, and then you fall off for a month. That was a piece was sustainability and consistency, accurate consistency.
Yeah. And specifically, you're just talking about a healthy lifestyle. What else is that? I mean, like eating right, getting your workouts in. What else does that include? Maybe from a mental standpoint, emotional standpoint.
That's a good mindfulness. Mindfulness. This raising of consciousness. If any of what I do boils down, I want to raise people's consciousness up. Make them more mindful and deliberate about everything they're doing. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you reacting? Why are you triggered by that thing? Why? And this is including me. This is the unexamined life is not worth living, like that old Stoic says. Really examine and understand yourself why you're doing certain things. Why do you emotionally eat? Why can't you fucking put the phone down and go to sleep so you can get up at a decent time? What is it, right? There's rooted reasons for these things. And so I really try to dive in with people because it's what worked for me. Because I learned when I started to examine the whys, I could really start working on the who and making myself into a more mindful and committing myself to that excellence. Man, if I can commit myself to understanding me more, well, guess what? I'm going to be able to react to situations. I'm going to be able to predict and strategically move a lot better if I can understand myself and the reasons why I do things.
That's a great point. So I want to understand tactically how you have done that, how you've learned more about yourself in this way and your tendencies and habits. And, you've had many lessons over the years, and we'll zoom back in a little bit here just to give the 30,000 foot of your story, right? But what are some examples of things you have done? Maybe it could be journaling or going to a retreat some people do, right? Or having a mentor. What have you done to become more self-aware?
So it started with reading, right? It started with reading some classics and, samurai like Musashi and old Greek philosophers. And I started looking at the pattern recognition, right? The pattern recognition of what was working for people all the time.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that all these different cultures spread across thousands of years come up with the same answers. There's collective unconscious. right? That we have to, it's that collective human wisdom that we all tap into. That's why when we talk and it resonates with people, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Yes, because there's a collective wisdom that we can tap into. And so I really just started to, well, how do you really see what works and what doesn't? Well, you have to isolate and you have to eliminate variables.
Mm-hmm.
So the elimination of variables for me was, and guess what? I'm not going to be drinking every day, right? I'm not saying be a monk, but I was saying, like, dude, I was drinking every day, right? Like vodka every day. And so what was that doing? Well, I was stacking karmic debt. I was having to fight through just the chemical imbalance. So, all right, let's remove that daily thing so I can get clear. All right, let's wake up at the same time. Let's start removing all these different variables and simplify. Because when you simplify and you put a lot of things on autopilot, now you can really start to examine and have more bandwidth for your own psychological processes. And so you know, how do you find out if something in your diet is bad? Well, you got to remove a lot of things. And so you can start getting specific.
Yeah.
And that was really where it started. I also reached out to some mentors. I do think outside accountability was helpful. And so, cause you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so having a coach was helpful. Having accountability to other people was helpful when I decided to put myself out there, right? You can't be a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
Not in this day and age, because it reads so clear. It's people see and read body language so consistently and so have so many interactions on video these days. They can read inauthenticity.
Right.
And so you got to be living it, man. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was the other piece, is really buying into universal laws and principles and understanding that there's no such thing as a small decision, right? The butterfly effect of everything. Really make sure closed doors, open doors, man, are you proud of yourself? Right? Because it fucking matters. Right?
Yeah.
Your energy, you can't fake a frequency. And I just started buying into that all the way. And then shit opened up.
Yeah, that's a good answer, man. It's good stuff to think about too. And let's take that opportunity then to give people a little more context on what you went through to be able to get to this point where you gained this level of awareness and did this self-work.
Yeah.
So I don't know how quickly you're able to move through it, but let's try to hit all the main pieces.
Yeah, I could hit a 30,000 foot.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I bottomed out. I bottomed the fuck out. Like I always say, man, it's helpful when you bottom out. Most people don't have the balls to bottom out. They stay in this mediocre, like not really happy, not really burning in. Dude, I was snorting fentanyl every day. I was spending money at both. I was just, and burned everything, every relationship, everything I had, lost the job, lost this, lost that. I'm in the big island of Hawaii at this point, living in my truck near where the volcano was erupted. And I just realized that this was my bottom and I had done it to myself. And so that honesty of having no more distraction, I had no more girlfriend to point and say, oh, I'm reacting because of this. No, it was not. It was just me. So that was powerful as I got honest about it was all my fucking fault. And so therefore, then you're empowered to make the decisions. And so then I started on this path to the French Foreign Legion. And through that process, it wasn't immediate. Man, I had hit a couple years of still getting through burning karmic debt, I think. Sometimes it takes your karmic violation is usually in direct proportion to how long it takes to burn off. So
what does that mean?
So, man, if you give someone a bad look or like kind of react to a security guard telling you to fucking, do something, you're like, hey man, fuck. We always leave and we don't really feel good about it. You're like, I probably could have been more chill, but it goes away kind of fast because it's not a grave. Versus if you kill somebody, you might be burning that shit off for 30 years in prison, right? It's that feeling of karmic debt. And it took me a couple of years to burn off just people I had hurt, wronged, lied, just not living right. You create damage. But when I came out of that, that's when I started to build my body and my momentum back up. And that's really and when I realized I wasn't happy still. And then I'm looking into Ukraine and looking down Mercenary Road. And I really just realized that there was no end to this route until I catch a bullet or something. I guess it was this. And I went, man, when am I going to be able to live just a life where I'm not trying to prove how badass I am, or I could just be fucking proud of myself.
Yeah.
Because I realized nobody gives a shit what country I'm in, what I'm doing. Like, yeah, your family might be proud of you, but man, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I was putting too much weight on like how other people would perceive me, maybe. And I just decided to not do that anymore. Now I care about how people perceive me by how I am, how I act, and who I am, and how I show up, and being dependable, and all those things that I think are more important, really. And that's really where I started to have that philosophical view on the world. Like, people that frustrate me, I'm like, what is this person here to teach me? Some of that old Zen proverb, Chinese proverb stuff. Like, man, even the people that are here to teach you the best are people you don't like or cause you friction, you know. And I just tried, and in the Foreign Legion, you need a lot of that because there's a lot of friction characters.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and, you know, and so it was a cool crucible for me. It was like this petri dish of, I had to do it out of need just to keep myself sane. And so it was like, all right, I need to be in control emotionally. I can't let external variables affect me, or as little as possible. And so that was, and I need to feel good. And so I was just stacking the deck in my favor with workouts and training and progress and mindfulness and trying to do that on repeat.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you keep referring to the French Foreign Legion as like a pivotal time for you.
Yeah.
And where you established a different set of habits, where you grew in such a way. Let's go back to when you were a kid. When did you realize you wanted to become a Navy SEAL? And then just chronologically walk us through, how long were you in the teams? What happened after? How'd you get into the French Foreign Legion? Yeah,
man, it's interesting too, because you're a legacy, man. You know, we stand on the shoulder. We always say we stand on the shoulders of guys like your grandfather, man, dude. Because that's,
thank you, man.
Really, for real, dude. That's not lost in the teams, man. Which is I was really grateful for, and that they're very clear about that, and like taking us through cemeteries and talking to old Vietnam vets and putting tridents on their coffins, on their tombstones and shit. It's cool, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. And so, anyway, dude, I was young, growing up in San Diego, was aware of the SEAL teams, right? And that's when I'd seen them training a little bit in the Bay, and that's sparked something in me. And from that point on, I just understood the commando thing as something I was attracted to for whatever reason. And so I just shelved it, though, right? I was like, oh, I got to go to college and do all that stuff. That was just an extension of high school. I didn't even knew I could not go, really. And so I went, got kicked out. I had some trouble in high school and was playing sports pretty decent, but I had ruined a lot of opportunities with decisions I made. And then went to college, got kicked out of multiple, dealing drugs, just stacking problems, man, completely lost, and finally course corrected. And I've had, thank God, the ability to course correct for periods of time, and locked it on, went to a JC back in Boston, and then graduated from University of California, Santa Cruz. Ended up, that's where I finished up. And then went in the
military. Where'd you study there?
Politics.
Okay.
Yeah, international relations. It was like a pre-law major. I thought maybe if I didn't, whatever. But I was trying to be a doctor, and I realized that shit requires aptitude. I was too stupid. I realized, dude, I was like in multivariable calculus and like organic chemistry, and I was struggling for like a D, and looking around and going, this ain't gonna cut it, dude, getting into med school. And so that was part of it. And getting out, I had been arrested so many times in college, and knucklehead stuff, drinking and DUIs, all that type of misdemeanors, but a lot of them, that I had to go to jail. And so I went to jail in Santa Cruz County, cleared up my probation, got out, and then started the recruiting process. And that was finally got it worked out. The Navy was the only ones that would take me, which has ended up where I wanted to go. So destiny, I would say. Made it through MEPS, God knows how. Made it through the train. Got my SEAL contract, which took me a long time, from tattoo waivers, conduct waivers, all these different things. But finally shipped, and then made it through training all in one go. Boot camp, BUDS prep, BUDS, SQT, one go. Thank God, because I don't think I could have had. I needed the momentum, man.
Yeah.
Dude. I needed the momentum. But very great. So I had a little luck in that capacity. I prepared well, but I also had luck. And then went to SEAL Team 7. And at SEAL Team 7, I was really fortunate. I had really good leadership. that saw something in me, and I hit a really good wave. Went to comms, JTAC, sniper as a new guy. Went to Yemen.
Yep.
Did some stuff in Mexico, and then went Iraq. But during that time, I also had a little trouble fighting in bars and different stuff. And I had some serious legal troubles, an aggravated assault I was fighting. I had some civil case, and then I got arrested again. And so in 7 years in the SEAL teams, I had got arrested twice. So Navy JAG was not feeling it. Right. They were like, and I had beat the case the first time, got demoted, and it was 2 years later, and had my rank back, was back up for LPO, was going through the screening process for, that next level, and got into trouble again. And I knew that was the nail in the coffin. They drug tested me, I passed. They steroid tested me, and I fucking lit that test up like a motherfucker. I failed, right? And so, and I wasn't lying about it, and that was part of the reason why I got a general discharge. Is I said, yeah, here's what was going on, and it wasn't like I admitted to it, and so I took a general, got out, and then that's when I moved into the civilian world.
And how long did that last?
2 years in the civilian world. So from the day I'm like sitting in that truck, like homeless in my truck and having suicidal thoughts, was 2 years almost to the day from when I had got out of the military.
Right back to what we started off talking about with the identity stuff, right? Yeah. That's what that all has to do with.
And that was that piece, I had just walked out because I had to go to jail again. So I had got out of jail and then walked right into that really job I had set up, leveraging contacts, and to a great job. And I was just right into it. Just didn't take a break, didn't stop to think about it, didn't stop to address the problems of why. I didn't change my behavior. I thought I did. I've never been arrested since that time, mind you. So, but I could have easily been, but I wasn't that as buck wild.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit more controlled, but I really didn't change that much. And in fact, I stacked on a bunch more shit, right? I had just stopped drinking as, full contact. And truthfully, I think it was a lot more in control because I was on amphetamines. And so I couldn't even get that drunk, right? To be quite honest, I couldn't black out drunk because I was on Adderall. And so that was probably the saving grace if I could look at it, but I was doing it on the other end with the fentanyl, and that is dangerous. And I went tits up probably 2 or 3 times. Would wake up, man, with my face all smashed, and just stitch it up and just go to work, dude. It was like totally normal, and it was
just from like having some sort of accident or fighting or what?
No, just snorting a line and taking a digger, just in my house by myself, dude. And just like, just waking up like, man, like, I got to get that stitched up, and would just be in a meeting with like my face stitched up. Yeah. Like crazy.
What kind of work were you doing?
So when that was going down, I was a CEO of a cannabis company.
Okay.
So I was building a facility out in Palm Springs. We were selling stuff, moving stuff, getting, cash. I was working for a venture capitalist who was actually, he had a bunch of businesses, and I just kept moving up the ladder. And now I'm pitching decks for him and doing from other companies and meeting with congressmen, but all the while lying to myself because I wasn't doing it during work, right? I was still achieving these measures of success that I could lie about. But like I say, speed wobbles, man. Like other people in my life, I was like being late to meetings, I was still, but my ability, I could like manage it just from sheer force, and time. I was sleeping 3 hours a night. I wasn't like up partying. I would be doing fentanyl, sending emails. Like that was just my flow. I was just so into it. I would send emails till 3 a.m, sleep till 6, take some Adderall and keep going. And that was just what I did. And so the only reason I was able to sustain it is because like I was working through all this period. And so my amount of work and contacts were building, but it's not sustainable, right? Those healthy habits, man, you can't bend reality that long, and life comes crashing down on you, man, if you're just stacking karmic debt.
So that moment when it did crash down on you, let's talk about that. Was this the moment when you were in the jungle?
No, this was before, and this was a few months before, but it's like when it all falls apart, there's like that catalyst thing. And it wasn't like some grave, crazy incident, but it was like all the wrong people knew. And it was just kind of the last straw, and people had lost confidence in me, and I lost confidence in myself. And it was kind of, all right, we're going to put you on the sideline. But really, I was getting slowly circle closed out, you know, emails. Now my email's closed out. And now, you know, all those things, man. And then you just realize it happens slowly, but then you realize you're all cut out. You know, you're out of the circle. And then that's when I really started to game plan, like, all right, I got to go in the front. I always had this goal. Now there's nothing holding me up. I got no kids, no wife. Like, why would I not do it now? Yeah. And that's when I made the decision.
Man. So when was the moment where you learned about the French Foreign Legion, or at least realized, hey, this is something I want to do?
So it was when I was in Hawaii. I had this, like, people watching this might have those moments where you go, I know what I should do. Those aha moments.
Yeah.
You know, call it the authentic voice of God speaking to you or whatever it is. It was one of those. But I found out about the Legion maybe when I was a kid, just in my military Dewey Decimal System travels in the library. But I really started to look into them when I was getting out of jail in college, and I was getting turned down by all these military branches. I thought, well, okay, if I last ditch effort, if I need to throw a Hail Mary, look red, grab red, I'll do that. And this was I was at look red, grab red. And so that's what I did, man.
Man. And how long were you in the French Foreign Legion for?
4.5 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Was that based out of Paris?
So, yeah, people that don't know, the Foreign Legion's like a foreign fighter unit.
Yeah.
That was built by an old king. It's a couple hundred years old. They've fought in they're about 7,000 strong, 7,000 to 8,000 guys spread throughout the world. 150 nations represented. Maybe 1 to 5% are actually French. All the rest are foreigners.
Right.
10% Ukrainian, 10% Nepalese, a lot of Brazilians too. Are like the big nationality groups. And there's the hub I went to is a pre-selection center near Paris called Fort Doja.
Got it.
Then there's another one, which is the headquarter regiment in Aubin, which is South France. Generally, the Foreign Legion is located in South France, and just their regiments are more South France, and that's where I was. So I was at the Mountain Regiment. Well, that's where I got orders to, which was attached to the 27th Mountain Infantry Brigade of France. And so that was kind of an isolated regiment, northeast of Marseille, about 2 hours.
Okay, cool. Did they require any French speaking or no?
They don't require it, but you better learn it quick.
Okay.
Right? Because all orders are in French. But it's designed for guys to come. Well, it's better if you do. But it's designed for guys. They start you from ground zero. And it's Legion French, so it's simplified.
I see.
And my French has like a Russian accent because of all the Eastern Bloc guys, which is funny. But they'll teach you through French classes, but it's not a lot. But they do teach you to write and read, and you're reading books, and everything's in French. And if they hear you speak in your mother language, you're going to get reprimanded.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay, so you've already covered a lot of how much of an impact that time had on you and the growth you experienced when you were out there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the transition out of that into what you're doing now, because it wasn't that long ago, right? It was just about a year ago.
Yeah, man. I got back in like mid-December.
It's crazy.
So it's been turning burning, but I knew we're getting hot.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to get into coaching. Like when I decided that I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, wow, I had built this pretty simple system that I really felt good about myself, man. And I had been suicidal in a truck, right? And I was like, I could teach other people how to do this, right? You see a lot of coaches and stuff online. I'm like, I could do better than a lot of these motherfuckers. That was the truth.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, let me just tell my story. And so I put my camera down in my barracks room, and people that look at my YouTube, they can go back to the very first. And I always just was like, let me do stream of consciousness, no edits, and just send it. And so that's when I started doing it. I just started doing it in the last couple months. I was in the Legion and sent it and had some success quick. And I decided from that point on, I just wouldn't change what I was doing. And so I've just kept doing that now. And it's worked, right? That chop in the wood, that battle rhythm. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to outside entities, what I should do and what I shouldn't do. I'm going to do what fucking works for me and just stick with it, right? I don't do AI. I don't do anything like that. And so people are like, oh, dude, you reach out. I'm like, no, because I don't like it when I fucking reach out to somebody and I get AI shit. Yeah. So I'm not going to do it to other people. Yeah, it's more work, but I don't give a fuck, right? Yeah. So it's like I have visibility on everybody coming through my pipeline. I've talked to the only person they've ever talked to is me. Yeah. And so that I started like that, and I'll still do that probably till the day I die doing this, right?
Yeah. So when, like, I'm trying to pinpoint the point where you said, hey, I can create a whole business, a whole brand off of my story.
Yeah. It was a moment where, and the brand, right, it forms over time. I didn't have I just knew I wanted to tell my story, and that's where it started. And then there's the technical side, like how do you actually communicate a message? I'm like, well, YouTube's a good engine. So I started there and my Instagram. Those two things are been my bread and butter of just rooted. And I just tried to root it in simplicity, entertaining, right? Be funny, like be normal. Also sustainability. Empowerment, man. Mindfulness. And grabbing your nuts and making a choice, being decisive. I call it the deliberate life. A lot of my brand is rooted in that deliberate living, man. Dude, if you're not happy, change it. Move, right? What does Jim Rohn say? You're not a fucking tree. Yeah. Move, right? There's so much. I want to shake people. They just won't make a call. Make a call. And, indecision kills more people than most things. Make a fucking call. It might be wrong, but guess what? You're going to learn a lot in that process and you'll be better. You'll be further along. Oh, yeah. And so part of that, when I identified with it, I'll tell you exactly when. I was in the hospital, actually. I tore my calf. You see, it's like a little bit fucked up. Yeah. In the mountains. And I went, you know what? I got some time. Let's do this. I was scared because I didn't want to get online, dude. Yeah. I didn't want to do it. I come from silent professional, man. Don't say, and I get it. Don't want to pimp the Trident or do this or that, but it's, man, part of it's my story, right? I'm not going to go into secret missions or, some confidential shit. And I wouldn't spill the beans or air dirty laundry on people. And that's not how I get down. And so I don't do those things. And so I'm like, there's a way to go about this in a respectful way. But also, if savages aren't picking up the mic, guess where the vacuum is? Then it's stuck with clowns, man, who have done nothing, preaching a message that no. And so I'm part of combating what I wanted this pendulum in the United States to shift back was, man, we need warriors to pick up the mic a little bit, right? And start preaching the message. And it doesn't just mean soldiers. It means people that get it. Yeah. Reason, right? Accountability, right? It's okay to be masculine, dude. It's okay to set the tone, man. Be deliberate and show up for your people, correct? And so that's kind of where all the brand kind of rooted. It was a little bit ambiguous kind of how I answered it, but because that's how it happened. Right. It wasn't like, I'm going to start this business, I'm going to do this. But, when I started getting some momentum and I just wanted to share some value, that's where it started. Then people were reaching out to me like, hey, man, can you help me with this? Or, dude, I almost killed myself and I'm really grateful. Hundreds of messages like that. Oh, wow. Hundreds. Wow. And that's what made me keep doing it. Even when I was getting friction from the Legion was like, hey man, I almost killed myself and I saw your message and I put the gun down and I really thank you. And I went, you know what? All right, let's do this. I can do this. And so then I just built a framework of, hey man, get up, do this. Here's your supplements. Yeah. Here's your macros. Here's how you track. And here's some things you should start reading. Man. And then we just go through phases.
Wow. So you were putting out this content while you were still in the Legion?
Yeah, dude, in my uniform, dude, in the barracks. And dude, and I'm in my beret and all that shit. So my first 6 videos, they went my first video, dude, went 500,000 in a couple. My first video I ever posted I launched my YouTube, put my thing in, and went 600,000. My second one did 2.3 million. My third one did whatever. And my first 3 videos. So that's why I got major friction, momentum fast. And so I got friction.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. That your first video was that successful. Yeah. And then you start, a light bulb goes off. Like, wait, there could be something here with what I'm sharing.
And that was exactly what it was. It was just kind of happened organically. It wasn't like I went into it. I just was like, I had these lessons learned and I was sitting alone, isolated. Dude, I didn't have social media for half a decade.
Yeah.
I was in a foreign country, isolated as fuck. I didn't even have people knowing my cell phone number, right? Because I was on a French, dude, I was completely off the grid.
Different identity too.
Different identity. And it was, I think it was important because I wasn't trying to be known. First, I was trying to be worth knowing.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people do wrong here is they try to be known when they're not worth knowing.
Yeah.
So you gotta go in the dirt, man, in the dark by yourself for sometimes it takes years. For me, it did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't just learn it in the SEAL teams. Man, I had to go back down into the dark, have all that experience stacked on top with a half a decade of being humbled.
Yeah.
And then I started my shit.
Wow. Okay. All right. I want to get into your coaching services. You've got mindset coaching, you've got fitness and nutrition, and then you've got, your content is very prevalent. You're on all kinds of podcasts.
Yep.
You speak too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything else I'm missing from that general list?
No, I also do consultation calls.
Yeah, consultation.
Sometimes people just want one-offs, but sometimes I speak to people who are really high level in fitness already. But they just need an outside perspective or accountability on some things. They already have fitness coaches. They're just like, hey man, I need to just be 100% honest with somebody that isn't sitting on a couch with a fucking diploma behind them.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes people, and that's all my stuff is not recorded. I don't do everything is completely black because I deal with guys who are in different countries and stuff. So it's important for me that everybody understands that it's private. And so, man, full honesty is really, really powerful. And also just leadership or, dealing with people. I try to give a good, honest outside perspective on things. And so, yeah, that's the rundown though.
Okay. And how do you structure this? So how do you present these offerings? How do you price them just in a tactical way?
So the elite mindset program is going to have more accountability. So we're going to do once a week Zooms.
Okay.
Once a week Zooms, you're going to get, and the initial Zooms this goes for the mid-level program and the elite. The first is a lot of questions. I need to see where the friction points are.
Yeah.
Some people it's fitness. Some people it's accountability. Some people it's their schedule. Some people it's the people they're around, the places. It's a lot of questions at first so we can really start unweaving this rat's nest of shit to really get down simplified. What needs to be subtracted? So the subtraction sensei, dude. I just start breaking up. Maybe it's their physical house needs to be cleaned. And I'm a huge proponent of cleaning out clutter, right?
Yeah.
Is once you start getting control over everything, don't procrastinate on the things that you're like, man, I should clean out that drawer. Do it. Fucking do it, right? Because there's something there. There's something to be learned there. There's some clarity to be gained. And so that's kind of the pieces I give of light a fire. Now, on the mid-level, they're once a month. But I do everything one-on-one. I don't do any group stuff yet.
Yeah.
I'll probably get into group stuff, but I really just wanted to build my connectivity with my clients and also just learn a lot. And so I haven't wanted to do that. It's a lot. It's time consuming. Right?
Yeah.
I'm on Zooms 8-9 hours a day, every fucking day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
I'm booked out 3-4 weeks all the time. I've been doing that every day since I got out of the Legion. Have not had less than 8 hours, 7 hours in a day.
Wow.
Of Zooms every fucking day. And so that's just what I do, right? And so I'll show up for my clients, man, and it's important. And I really like that one-on-one because I love seeing guys get progress.
Yeah.
It's crazy when guys and females, when they just make some small adjustments, right? That 1 degree of separation at the beginning of a journey makes a massive difference when pulled over the aggregate. Right? Long game, man. I want to be thinking about things in decades, not a week or 2 weeks. Like, let's get results. Yes, results matter, but let's spread results out forever.
Yeah.
And that's really the drops in the bucket. And so then I do the consultation calls, the 1 hours, right? And then the speaking engagements if people want to book me. I got a prison booked and I'm speaking at Pendleton here in a week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So stuff like that. We just mix it up.
Yeah. So as far as your product roadmap, you're booked out solid right now. You're doing one-on-one still. You just said you might get into some group stuff. That's one way that coaches will scale, right? And it's this only lasts for so long. You being able to do one-on-ones with people, and the more you grow, you're gonna grow out of being able to do this, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're charging such a high ticket.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't have your freedom, right? You're still, it's all you.
Yeah.
So we got to find a way to scale this and duplicate you. So just purely from a business standpoint, what other ideas have you thought of to scale your business? Have you thought about any sort of retreats or programs or a team under you?
Yeah. I'll probably never do a team. It's just not what I'm interested in. It's not the business model I want. I will do group calls. That's for sure. That's going to be the next step. I got a book coming out, so there's another step. So I'll have some. I just was at a red carpet event last week in LA, and so there's some interesting stuff happening there. Now, on the actual scaling, it's just going to be one-on-ones are going to be elite. Mid-level is going to be group at some point. That's probably that is what I'm going to end up doing.
Sure.
Because, all right, I'm going to buy back some of my time. And so all those mid-levels, what I'm doing, which take up the majority of my time, will just now be, twice a week as opposed to spread throughout every day.
Makes sense. Cool. I do want to talk about your content marketing strategy. I think it's very interesting what people put behind all the work they do on Instagram, on YouTube, what they're trying to portray out there, what the purpose is of each different type of content. You have your talking head reels or shorts, for example, where you're being motivational, telling people to, get the fuck up and stop being a bitch.
Yeah.
And you have gym workouts, right, on YouTube. You've got all kinds of different stuff. Can you touch on each of those and like what your purpose is behind it or intention rather?
So I always do 2 uploads, a YouTube full long version a week. Have not missed since I started doing it, Mondays and Thursdays. So I'll do that stream of consciousness, dive into some deeper principles, just things I'm going through or, stories, just kind of, just make it funny, make it interesting, but make it poignant. I'll cut those into some shorts, right? And spread those throughout on my Instagram and the stories, poignant moments in it. And then on the gym footage, I like to show what I do in a day. So I record my wake ups. I record my morning process, my Mike Tyson push-ups, my food, the macros, the mindfulness throughout the day, positivity, maintaining a positive lens. I try to put a lot of that out, but also being honest about there's sometimes that I don't really feel in it. And so I like to get on camera when I'm kind of low too. And that's the other piece is I don't try to show I don't make content. I film my life. That's really the truth. And that's what makes it really easy for me to just never stop and I don't miss is because I'm not, okay, what are we going to do? I never plan anything. Never. I don't script anything. I don't plan anything. So it makes it really easy. And when I do gym stuff, people will be like, hey, what do we, I go, no, I don't want to talk about it before because it matters of just, what's the theme when we're just there working out, and I like to ask people questions about their life. It's kind of a podcast in the gym with my guys. And so I like to ask them we got Julio Almanza coming out on the 8th, coming out from Arizona. He was in prison for a long time. We got some cool people on deck, man. And I'm just interested in people.
Yeah.
And so it's just me going to bro out and ask people questions and gain some knowledge from them because I don't know shit. Right? That's the way I view it, dude. I don't know. There's people way better shape and way this and way more. And so I'm like trying to learn. And I think that comes across, but I record that. And, we have my content guy. He'll do that because it's important to have kind of high quality stuff for gym footage.
Sure.
But then the rest I'll do, and so I do everything organic. I've never run an ad, never spent $1 on an ad. And that is that's important that people know is, dude, you don't got to force anything. If you got heart, man, dude, I do a lot of my YouTubes with my phone propped up against a water bottle. And I started that way. I moved to a gimbal sometimes, just to get super Gucci, but I try to keep all my stuff authentic and organic. And I found it works. And because I'm not in a rush to grow. And that's what I think that people do wrong, especially in this space, is they're trying to, man, how do I optimize? How do I grow? I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
If it grows, cool. I'm just going to try to stay real and just keep doing what I'm doing and not change a fucking thing. And if I got to adjust, I will, but I'm not going to try to grow faster. I'm growing consistently and that's all I care about.
Man, I love that because that's how I approach my podcast is I don't know anything. I'm learning from others. And that's what drives me to keep being just so passionate about it. And then you also answered the next question I had, which was, what does your planning process look like? Because this is just such a standard thing for any sort of content creator, whether it's on social media, YouTube, whatever. And you basically said, I'm just filming my life, what it is, and I'm sharing how I'm feeling in the moment. And it works. It seems to be working really well.
I think people are put off by too polished.
Yeah.
I think raw it's the age of organic.
Yeah.
It's the age of authenticity. There was a time when sparkly lights really hit, but now it's coming back to, man, what's real? People are skeptical, man, and they should be, right? There's so many, what's the word, grifters and this, or, snake oils. There's all these words, man, but it's like, dude, do you resonate with somebody? And are they living a life you want? And so if the whole goal is somebody reach out to you because you're living a life they want, well, you better show your fucking life.
Yeah.
Right? It can't be, dude, I was just filming, at my girlfriend's condo when I first got out. Bro, in a 1-bedroom, I wasn't like trying to be fucking flashy, dude. I'm in a 1-bedroom, doing my thing, my food. Nothing's changed. Yeah, we're on a golf course now, but nothing changes. Still in the bathroom doing push-ups at 4 a.m. And I think that's important because, not trying to be anything and not trying to be nothing.
Yep.
Just living my life. And I think that people should feel good about waking up. And I want people to feel positive because, man, dude, look around, man. I mean, be grateful, and show your gratitude by working hard, by trying to learn. And you with your podcast, it's like, man, you have to be willing to look stupid and try to learn anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I didn't know what I was doing with the YouTube or this and that, but I had to look dumb, asking people questions. And man, you got to be willing to drop the ego. And that goes with diet. That goes with mindset. That goes with, you have to go, hey man, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. Will you just kind of give me some input? Because what you're doing is working. Yeah. I've had to do it with people and it changed my life. And the minute I through periods of my life when I've gotten honest, dropped my ego and asked for help, my life got immediately leveled up. And I think that's an important place for someone to get. And you don't have to bottom out to get there. That's the smart people don't bottom out.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't be a dumbass like me and lose everything. Like if you're feeling speed wobbles or something's not feeling right, this is the easy time to course correct. And so to go back to what your original point was, is like strategy is, I just tried to keep it as real as possible, and people talk about social media being fake. It can be really real. I've filmed myself low, and I also just filmed myself playing with the dog, man, or, sitting in the house just talking shit, or with my girl, or, tried not to make it too flashy.
Yeah.
It's not me. I'm not flashy anyway. I like nice stuff, but it's like, I'm not trying to, be anything I'm not.
Right. Well, good for you, man. I think that's the right way to do it. And I'm curious, since being an entrepreneur, what would you say has been the biggest challenge you've experienced? It could be general or it could be specific.
Yeah. Self-doubt. Self-doubt. Like, I don't wake up fucking like, there's low days and high days. Sometimes sales slow down. Sometimes, and it's always that when those intrusive thoughts come in, you're like, well, got to go back picking up a gun. And it happens, man. Because and so it's being able to catch that, or whenever you're in a low vibrational state, your self-talk dumps. And so I'm trying to be hyper aware of my self-talk and stuff. And I think that's helped me be successful because I can talk my way through it and just don't change what's working. Don't let the way you feel adjust or change what you're doing or affect your day.
Yeah.
And so self-talk, I say negative, intrusive thoughts, or, you can be having a relationship issue and that, you're like, man, I don't really want to get on film this YouTube, but guess what? You got to. And so but I think, or I know the most difficult thing is intrusive thoughts and limiting beliefs. You're like, oh, well, if it's slowing down, well, it's over. The run's done. Well, everything's, we're losing the house. It's like, I think, and what's interesting is when I talk to other entrepreneurs, everybody deals with that.
Oh yeah.
Everybody has those times. And like, I was just with, Johnny Mitchell, I did a podcast with him, the comedian, and you'll see him on the Connect, but he goes, I go, what have you done? He goes, dude, we'll have a low kind of some numbers. And he goes, well, going back to waiting tables, it's like immediately. And I go, oh, everybody deals with it.
Yeah.
Right. Even guys at massive levels of success deal with that. And so, man, if you're dealing with that, then good. It means you're pushing the pace a little bit. If you know exactly what you're doing and you're not experiencing anything, you're not trying that hard.
Yeah. And I feel like most entrepreneurs have really experienced that kind of ground level feeling where they don't have anything yet.
Yep.
And that almost drives them to never want to be there again.
Yeah.
Right.
And when it slows, that fear of going back.
Yes.
And so that is what also fuels my daily habits is there's so many things that are out of our control. Let me just stack the deck in the things that I can control, right? Let me just at least posture myself in the most strategic way by getting upright, feeling good about my choices, not being in a negative state, keeping a positive lens, because you'll strategically maneuver much more correctly if you're in a positive lens.
Yeah.
Than if some, waking up hungover and like we've all been there and it's like even going to the grocery store seems overwhelming. You're just like, you know what I mean? We've all been there and it's like, I just can't even deal with that. Yeah. Imagine trying to navigate some complex business. No. It makes it very, very challenging. And so I try to remove those challenges as much as possible.
Yeah, no, that's good. And one thing to keep in mind too for people is you're never really fully comfortable. Even if it looks like, oh yeah, I went through the hard times. Now I'm good. Now I'm kicking ass. You still have this internal lack of comfort from that fear of going back, right? And it always kind of haunts you.
Yeah, and I think that's
it's
important.
Necessary.
I think it's important because the minute you get complacent, you're going to start backsliding. And I'm glad for it because it's never lost me because I'm still very aware of what it feels like to not have gas in my truck, living in my truck. like having $6 in my account going, oh shit. That was terrifying, man, because I realized I don't have anybody to lean on, right? I didn't have anywhere to go or nobody to lean on. And I went, never putting myself, and now you got more responsibilities, right? Now I got the fiance and the baby on the way and stuff. So that it adds a whole nother level of responsibility. Cause I grew up with financial difficulty, wasn't homeless, but there was fear around money. And I was raised kind of with that scarcity mindset regarding money. And so I have to constantly combat that. And so I do it with hard work. I go, I'm up on my Zooms and stuff, working at 5, and then I won't stop until 7, 8 at night, and I'll take a little break in the day and work out and stuff. But for the most part, I'm on it, right? I'm on it because I refuse to let somebody work harder than me, knowing I left something on the table or knowing a lead kind of reached out to me and I didn't answer, and it went cold, and fuck that. I'm going to be Johnny on the spot because I'm terrified. Yeah. It's fucking terrified, man. Truthfully, terrified of being average.
That's so real. That's exactly what I wanted. I try to talk about this exact thing with all my guests is that it's not glamorous doing this line of work, being an entrepreneur, and no matter how good it looks on your screen, it's very hard.
Fear driven. Yes. I think most entrepreneurs are driven by fear. Everybody has fear, but the types of people allow it to push them different ways, right? Fear can be a very positive catalyst, or it can destroy your life. Yep. Or it can at least stagnate you. And so people get that analysis paralysis when somebody could be like, I'm terrified, but I'm just going to put my parachute on after I jump out of the plane. Yeah. And we'll figure it out. Yep. First, but the fear is not changing. It's rooted in all of us. That's not going away. If somebody's not scared, I think that they're dangerous. They're in the SEAL teams, they would say, like, if a guy's not scared, he's not smart or or is a dangerous entity, because you need somebody to have that level because it keeps you sharp, right? It keeps you really tuned in and plugged in to, what the potentialities are. Yeah. So that I really like a little bit of fear, but it definitely pushes me, and I accept it and I don't deny it.
Yep. Good reminder and good message. So I want to end it with a couple signature questions I ask at the end with every guest. First question is, if there's an entrepreneurial life hack that goes against the mainstream belief you could share from your experience, what would that be?
I'll give you a great example. I don't do what anybody else is doing, in the sense that I'll give you like, obviously there's going to be general trends and things like creating your own completely new thing is different. But when I was looking up, times to post, right? Just give you an example.
Yep. We've all been
It was
there.
all YouTube, you got to post it this time and I went, what if I did the exact opposite? And so still to this day, I only post at the worst times that they say to post from my very first one. I post at 3:30 in the morning. All my YouTubes, all my main YouTubes.
That's brilliant, actually.
I post at 3:30 in the morning. And maybe it's worse for me, but I just found it to be I did it as kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
But it worked. And so that was something that I do not look into any of that hack bullshit.
Yeah.
Hacks are for hacks.
Yeah. I like that.
That's not what's moving the meter.
Right.
Heart moves the meter. Authenticity moves the meter, and it registers. And so, man, just stick with the game plan. Don't worry about the numbers, right? I've had spikes in my views and go down, but I make more money now on less views. And it's not, I don't mean by the views, but by the quality of people that reach out to me.
Yes.
And that's all I give a fuck about, man. Man, I want quality, right? I want quality.
Yep.
Ideally, I want quality volume, but I'd rather have good quality people reaching out to me. The message resonates than just a bunch of trash views.
Yep.
And I'm just using a specific example on the YouTube, but also a hack is, man, show up for your people. Really. Here's another real hack. Do what you fucking said you're going to do. Most people don't. I'm like shocked by that, by people who have been on my program. They're like, oh, dude, you really show up for these. I thought it was going to be somebody else. I go, no, man, I fucking said it was going to be me. What did you think it was? They're like, oh, I just expected it to be somebody else.
Thought you had a team. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you had somebody. I thought I was going to get farmed out. I go, no, dude, this is me. They're like, wow, this is fucking cool. And I go, yeah, I was shocked by how many people said that. Just do what you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
Don't overpromise. Just deliver on what you said.
Love that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who is one person you think I should have on this show from your network?
Damn, dude. Bro, I got a few people, man. I got one guy, he's in Miami, but he'll be out here. My boy, Jimmy Watson, who I love the Blackwater, Recon Marine SEAL duty, where's Jim McAfee's CEO also.
Oh, nice.
Solid cat. My boy, Ryan Williams. And I do think you got to have Dan Corbett on.
Okay.
Dan Corbett, he was in Serbian prison. He was on Team 6 and also was mercenary, was in Serbian prison for 18 months. He just had a book drop called American Mercenary. And so I think you should definitely link with him. Just good stories because everyone's in the entrepreneurial space now.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the other piece for veterans and stuff is, you served. Okay, cool. All these people, but guess what? Everybody is stateside and just trying to figure it out, right? Everybody ends up being an entrepreneur or a worker in some capacity, right? So just own it, man, right? This is where it's at.
Yep. I love it, man. Well, Taylor, thanks so much.
Yeah.
What an awesome...
Chris, it's been a pleasure, bro.
Yeah, you too, man. It's cool. I love how you've taken your story, your experience, and you're creating a way to help people with it. And the content that you put out there and the services that you offer.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for doing what you do and for having me over.
Dude, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. We won't stop. We keep chopping the wood, man. Anybody who want to reach out to me, you'll probably have the links, but TaylorCavanaugh.com. You can always hit me there. That's all the contact forms go to me. Like I said, I don't AI anything. That goes right to my personal email, Instagram, TCAV official.
Hell yeah.
Always will answer the DMs. And then on TCAV TV, man, if we drop something in the comments, bro, we'll get it popping.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks, Taylor.
Chris, appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Nichols and Dimes Show. Please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow my Instagram page at Nichols and Dimes. The podcast Instagram page is at Nichols and Dimes Show. And please like any of the videos you come across on either platform and leave a comment, leave feedback. It helps me to improve and innovate and to continue to scale and bring more interesting guests to the Nichols and Dimes Show. Thank you all for the support, and we'll see you next time.